Welcome back. Thursday edition Jordy Culotta Show. As always, here with the boys. Great call on the game winner. Kyron Lacey pulling it in. First offensive play of overtime inside of a jam-packed electric Tiger Stadium. A great day on campus. Our guy Chris Blair has seen a lot of those now since being on the job since 2016 and is with us as he is every Thursday here in studio. Man, that thing lived up to it, huh?
It was every bit what it was supposed to be. Right. I mean, and it was a great day. I'll be honest with you. I mean, I know, I know the traffic, after the game, but again, it is what it is. But I was prepared for that for these type of games.
Sure.
But everything else during the day. I mean, it was a fun day to be on campus, and goodness knows I went over around 7:30 Saturday morning to get a couple of things and then leave to come back later, and it was already started. So I was like, oh, yeah, this will be a great day, great night. And it was. And, the game lived up to the hype, and it was a great matchup.
It was. That was a great celebration by my guy, Patrick Wright, in the booth there on a great call with you and Hester. And, man, that game was back and forth. Can you remember calling a game where a team did not have the lead until the last play of the game?
No, I mean, I was thinking back to that. I mean, it just really never felt like really both teams.
Right.
I mean, even in the first quarter when you kind of had a sense, wow, how is Ole Miss not up 21-0? The way things have gone. Well, a lot of that has to do with LSU's defense, which I'm sure we'll talk about, but I mean, they never really got in rhythm. They were kind of clunky. They'd have a couple of good back-to-back plays, and then something would break down, or they'd commit a penalty, or LSU would make a big stop. And it felt like that way with LSU. It was two teams that the year before just ran up and down the field in that 55-49 game. But both teams, it always felt like in that game in Oxford that it was literally going to come down to who had the ball last. Like it was like, no, there's no defense to be found out here. Yeah. So that's out of here. It was the opposite. I think really for both defenses, especially there in the first half. But man, oh man, it's like Coach Kelly said Monday, had you told him or any of us you're going to hold Ole Miss without a touchdown, keep them out of the end zone for 2 quarters in the second half and overtime, I mean, you would have taken that all day long. And, kudos to Coach Baker and that entire defense. I just thought they made play after play after play when they had to do it. And then, Garrett Nussmeier, to me, wasn't statistically his best performance, but in my eyes, it was his best performance.
I agree. I mean, the same thing.
When you think about the great quarterbacks, and, I'm not comparing Nuss to all these legends, but, I mean, when you think about whatever era you want to talk about, Bart Starr, Roger Staubach, Terry Bradshaw, Troy Aikman, I mean, Tom Brady. You don't really remember those really horrible games they had.
Yeah.
But when they had games that you still felt like as long as they were out there on the field, there was a chance it could happen. And I think Garrett proved to all of us that, the same way we felt about Jaden last year, which was if he's got the ball and there's a chance, I'm riding with Jaden. I think Garrett helped a lot of people feel that same way because when they needed it, on a 4th and 5 where it's the ball game, and he's like, nope, I could go to Thomas and fresh set of downs. I know this play. I know that Aaron's going to be there, and I'm going to lead him there. And then first play of overtime, he's like, Kyron's like, give me the ball, man. Give me on 2-8. Give me on one-on-one. I'm going
one-on-one out here.
And, the first play in overtime, boom, walk it off and be done with it. That's a gutsy. That's a hell of a performance by Garrett Nussmeier.
I agree. I thought he made a ton of money on Saturday night.
Yeah, I agree.
You mentioned the defense, and I mean, you could probably rewind the tape, and a year ago in this game probably started the process of changes need to be made on that side of the ball. They make the change in the offseason. They bring Baker in. I thought Kelly's comment on Monday about Major Burns was a huge testimony of finding the right guy more than what happened on Saturday night was when he said Major Burns came up to Kelly after the game and said, like, he trusted what he told him. The coach told him what to do, and he believed him and went out there and did it. And Major Burns probably played his best game as a college football player.
I agree.
And that to me was like that had to be a really good feeling for Kelly, knowing like your defense performs like that, and then you have your veteran, experienced guys saying we trust him.
It's funny, on Thursday, his coach's show, he kind of alluded to what you said when I asked him about, what kind of game do you see considering the way it went last year? And he goes, well, considering they went and got 10 guys out of the portal for defense and we hired an entire new staff,
Right.
there's probably been an emphasis put on defense. So that's the kind of sense of humor Coach Kelly has. But, I mean, I think he agreed with you. And it was great to see. I kept going back to the South Alabama game, and I was asking Jacob, and I talked to Gordy about it, and I said, I know it's South Alabama, and again, no disrespect to the Jaguars. I think they have a very good offense. But watching LSU be in position and then make the tackle, get them to the ground quickly, don't allow yards after catch, don't allow yards after contact for, a really good running quarterback and a really good running back. They didn't allow it. So take away who they were playing, they just looked like a defense that I thought was aggressive and was bringing the fight and was setting the tone, something I hadn't seen in the previous 4 games. My thought was, can you replicate that and, again, match the talent level with Ole Miss's offense? And, I was impressed that, I think what we saw against South Alabama was the turning point, and now they've taken it a step further against a very good offense in Ole Miss. And again, there are multiple big games left on the schedule, including this Saturday, that you hope that trend continues. Because if this defense gets better, I mean, suddenly now you don't have, Garrett has one of his typical Garrett Nussmeier games.
Yeah.
That game Saturday's not even close.
I agree.
And that's what they're going to need starting Saturday on the road against an Arkansas team.
Swenson and Weeks are trending towards All-Americans. I don't know if Weeks has been playing long enough. Swenson has to be an All-American. Weeks is definitely an All-SEC guy in the way that he's playing. Those guys are playing high-level defense right now.
Speaking of helping improve somebody's stock, I mean, obviously Witt has done that since, being put into the lineup after week 2, but that was the breakout game. I mean, 18 tackles, 10 solos, a sack, 2 tackles for loss, and a forced fumble. I mean, that's a really good stat line for a defensive player, and he's everywhere. I mean, he's either making the tackle or when I used to say that about Devin White a lot. Like, I don't care how many tackles he's got, he's going to get his own, but he's always around the football, and that's what we're seeing with Whit Weeks. He's everywhere, and he's so much fun to watch, man, because he's like the guy that just wants to play football.
That's
like, do you want to play 3 games a week? Okay, right. Witt's down for it. Right. Like maybe 4 if we can, Right. Yeah. So that's why I like about Whit Weeks, and the fact that he's playing as well as he is, and I think Greg Pitt. I think those two together are actually making themselves a name as a tandem as we get deeper into the season. And then Braden Swenson, I mean, I said it, I think, last time. Kevin Peoples, who I knew at Georgia Southern, was well thought of by Willie Fritz. I mean, he thought a lot of Coach Peoples and his ability, and then, went on to Missouri, last season with Coach Baker, and I thought did a really good job. And he's turned Savion and Braden into the matchups we faced this year where South Carolina's in rushers were the storyline, and then to a certain degree, Ole Miss's edge rushers were the storyline. I mean, now it's Braden Swenson and Savion. I mean, those two, if you're an offensive coordinator, you know those guys.
Not from the coaching standpoint. I'm not asking you to jump inside the mentality, but just you've made this trip, you've traveled, you've seen this place. Why is it difficult at Arkansas?
That is it. That's hard to put a finger on, because there were some games where obviously on paper,
right,
it shouldn't even be close, and the one that stands out, the outlier, is obviously 19. That was, that's the last time LSU worked Arkansas.
Right.
And since then, it's been 3-point wins or 3-point loss. I think when you go up there, I mean, I give Arkansas fans credit. Not a whole lot of success, not quite A&M level, but not a ton of success. But
enough to scare you.
Yes. And enough to keep them engaged.
Right.
And, you get a game like this coming off the Tennessee game up there and that atmosphere. I just think it's a tough place to play for that reason. I mean, I think you got to give Arkansas fans credit. Bud Walton is a tough place to go in basketball.
It is.
They've got more success in basketball than they have in football, but that same kind of mentality, especially when you have a team that, right now has a winning record. Because we've been up there when they've had a losing record, and it's still a pretty raucous atmosphere. And I think also, and I know this gets used a lot, but you can sense it when you're up there, and I travel 3 times a year sometimes with sports. They don't like LSU. I mean, and I think the Tigers keep a nice penthouse apartment in their head year round, and so I think there's even an amplification, even more so than when Tennessee came. As the game went on, that place got lit, but that place will be lit as soon as the teams come onto the field Saturday. So they want to get after LSU. It's kind of the big brother they want to prove something to.
Which the rival that doesn't exist in LSU's head, but to Arkansas, it's very much real.
Yeah, I mean, I was asked by, some guys from the Arkansas Network earlier this week on their podcast. They said, does this thing mean anything to LSU? I said, it only means something when that boot's not in Baton Rouge. You know what I mean? I mean, because LSU's supposed to win. So for that standpoint,
I bet they love that one.
I mean, but I really feel that way.
Even the radio guy,
Chris Blair.
I wasn't throwing shade. I was just like, if you ask an LSU fan, and I haven't asked them all, so I'm not even pretending to know it all. I'm just saying when I talk to LSU fans, they'll say, I don't know why we make it such a big deal. It's not that big a deal. And I understand that, but if that 200-pound monstrosity is in Fayetteville, it shouldn't be that way. It should be in Baton Rouge. I said, so for that matter, I guess the rivalry does mean something. But I think wholeheartedly it means more to Arkansas.
Joe and Jaden got hardware, but I was talking about Nussmeier on Monday morning, and to me, he fits that class. He's not. They all have different skill sets. But the way he competes, the way he stays in the game, a lot like what you were talking about on Saturday night on paper, when you look at it, you would probably say, well, that's probably not his best game. If you were there, I took away that, like I said, I thought he made a lot of money. And it was because I had a great point of view. I was 12 rows up right behind the bench and saw the way that he was coached by Hankton, Frank Wilson, and then the way that Kelly gets after him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like he gets after him.
He does.
And I think that's almost how Nussmeier likes it. He takes his helmet off. He lets people see him. He lets people, like he sits there, doesn't really blink, just looks at Kelly and takes it. And, watching him kind of through that game, I said when he made that pass to Kyron Lacey, it was, it all kind of made sense. I mean, in the way that he competes. And if there's anything comparable to the two great ones that we've seen over the last 5 years, is that those cats are competitors, right? I mean, they'll go to the death, and Nussmeier seems to have that quality.
I had this conversation a couple of weeks ago when we were talking about where he was on pace, as far as just the numbers, which again are very, very good.
Right.
It helps, give some credit to that offensive line. I mean,
for sure.
Ole Miss, I'm sure, thought they were at least going to be able to get a sack or two, for the team that's leading the country in sacks, and they got 0. So, I mean, that offensive line's doing a lot. But back to Nussmeier, it was almost as if, you look at 18 and then you look at 19. You look at 22, then you look at 23. And I don't know what the future holds and whether or not, Garrett is even thinking about what he's going to do at the end of the season. But should he turn the corner and want to come back, again, it's great to have the offensive line you have right now.
Yeah.
But just with Garrett Nussmeier alone, as I told you last week, superseding how good I thought he would be. I thought he would be good. But I think he's even shocked me at how good he is. And there were throws on Saturday that you were like, this is not what he typically does. So something's off somewhere. The interception he threw where he backpedaled out of the pocket and threw off his back foot, that's what you guys were talking before I came in here. He's so good about knowing where he needs to move that pocket that fits his skill set that there were a couple times where he abandoned that. And it was like, oh, wow, this is not who he is. And then, as you said, when it mattered, he'd forgotten about all of that. I mean, washed away those 2 interceptions like they didn't happen. And that throw he made to Aaron Anderson, that is the throw that even NFL quarterbacks are complimented on with the TV broadcast. When a guy throws that kind of throw, forget what it meant in the game. Just that throw alone. So I agree with you. I think should he come back another year? Is he candidate this year? I think so.
I agree.
I agree.
Jaden
and Joe at this point of the season were, for the most part, were so far ahead it was almost a no-doubter. This one might be a little more of a battle.
But makes sense.
But I think he's in I think you can make an argument. Absolutely.
When you look around the country at quarterback play, I was people, showered me with Nico and Carson Beck, and I'm like, you better start talking about Nussmeier. I mean,
I'll be honest with you. I mean, Miami. Cam is impressive. I think obviously he's at the top of the conversation.
Yeah.
I mean, the guy.
Travis Hunter.
Yeah, absolutely.
The guy at Boise State.
Yo, the running back.
back.
He's the real deal. I mean, there's
and then kind of after that, you're like,
looking.
I mean,
but of the guys we just mentioned here, of the quarterbacks you watch on Saturdays, who do you take over Garrett Nussmeier?
Nah.
Especially with the makeup of this team. I mean, with the receiver room as talented and as deep. But what are the names you said? Yeah. I'd rather have Garrett.
No doubt
I'd
about
take
it.
G all day long.
No doubt about it. Shador, give me Garrett.
Yes.
I mean, and
it goes to that competitive nature that you talked about. What he's doing, his demeanor, his approach on the sideline, which again you cannot escape the shadow of. That's the world he lived in. That's his father. That's the
Burrow.
He understands the hard coaching because that's what makes you better.
Yeah.
And
the
so he takes
son,
it.
The coach's son quality.
Yeah, I mean that's Joe Burrow, perfect example.
Yeah, I mean those rides home from the park at between 9 and 14 were different for those kids than they were for everybody else.
I'm sure you saw it on social media. I saw it yesterday. I think Garrett's talking about a game where he had a great performance, I believe, in high school, and he. Big hero coming off the field. Mom's excited, telling him how wonderful and so proud. And Dad goes, "What are you doing on third down? Like, what are you thinking?" You know what I mean? And that's there's something to be said for that. And I think Garrett takes it well, internalizes it, and it drives him. And I'm looking for him to have a really solid game Saturday. I mean, Arkansas defensively they got after Tennessee. So I don't think that'll be different. I think they'll try to test LSU's line early, and again I like the Tigers in that battle.
I agree.
And then offensively, it's a team that they got two big bruising running backs, and their quarterback not quite KJ Jefferson, but still a big kid that also can run. And then you got Coach Petrino, and say what you want. I mean, he's one of the better play callers.
Definitely.
He knows how to scheme up an offense. So it'll be a challenge. But I'm looking for Garrett and them to. I think they understand the importance of this game, and I look at this game, Jordy, as Arkansas defeated Tennessee, number 4 in the land, and they immediately thought we should be top 15. That didn't happen. They're not getting votes. Okay? So now they go into the bye week. They try to get healthy, and according to their availability report, they did. Now LSU's coming in, a top 10 team.
Yeah.
And it's like, we're going to make our season and our name for ourselves by beating LSU. Mm-hmm. Then we're going to get votes. Then we're going to be top 20 or whatever they're aspiring to be. They can make it, at least for the short term, off LSU Saturday night. And LSU's got Arkansas. They got to go on the road to Texas A&M. Then they got a bye. Then they got Alabama. Then they got Vandy. Then they got Oklahoma. Like there's Florida. Some big games in Florida on the road.
Yeah.
There's some big games left. So there should be plenty of motivation for both of these teams. Do I think it's a trap game for LSU? I mean, after the fact, I'm sure somebody could say that. But I don't think LSU goes up there, does what they're supposed to do, what they're capable of doing. LSU wins that game.
Yeah, I agree. I think the distractions are for us. I think we're still talking about the Ole Miss game on Wednesday and Thursday. I think they're past it.
No, yeah.
Yeah. And you can hear that for yourself tonight as Chris Blair will be sitting down with the LSU head football coach just like he does every Thursday of game week over at TJ Ribs on South Acadian Thruway. That is the LSU head coach's radio show. Coach Brian Kelly will be there 7 o'clock. They get started on the LSU Sports Radio Network. That's the last time you'll hear from Coach Kelly until the pregame show that you can catch 2 hours before kickoff on Saturday. Kick it off at 6 from Fayetteville so you can catch the network at 4 o'clock with Chris Blair, Jacob Hester, and Gordy Rush on the call for the network, and over at TJ Ribs tonight, closing out the media week. Great to see you. Safe travels.
Yeah, man.
We will see you next week. Real quick on the way out, basketball. They're rolling right now. Picked up another I don't know.
Yeah,
so we didn't talk about this. They got a big-time point guard, 5-star recruit They got a competitive roster that people are obviously disrespecting this year. That's a good spot for McMahon.
Oh, I loved it.
Me too.
You know, Coach Brady said, Coach,
that's a Brady special.
Coach them back near the bottom. I said, that's exactly where we want to be.
That's a Brady special.
No, I tell you what, man. I know we're closing up, but it's an exciting team. It's going to be a really exciting brand. He's got the horses to do.
I agree.
What he did, his last couple of years at Murray, and I think he's comfortable in that. And this roster fits that. So this is going to be fun. And hey, I'd rather work our way up. Let everybody else be preseason number 5.
Hell yeah, ain't nothing better than being preseason 12th with a good squad and nobody knowing it. Chris Blair, voice of the Tigers. Make sure and check him out tonight over at TJ Ribs with Coach Brian Kelly, as they will have the radio show for you. We'll be back tomorrow morning. We're going to go to the Dome tonight, see Sean Payton's return. So we'll have a full report for you tomorrow morning. Lloyd's hitting an RV trip up to Fayetteville. Good luck with that. Lloyd.
Hey, got room for one more.
Good luck
never been more thankful to fly on the team plane than I am right now.
They better win because that ride home could get brutal.
Kill myself.
Friday morning, 7 a.m.